What will you do when your money works for you? Welcome to the Tech Girl Financial Podcast with your hosts, Victor and Kim Gaxiola. From the home office in California, here is Victor and Kim.
Well, 2023 is off to a flying start, and I'm so excited because I think the first two episodes of the year really kicked things going with Divya talking about holistic wellness, which got kind of primed us for the year. And then, of course, the last podcast episode, which we hope everybody heard with Neil Nakagawa of the Pacific Financial Group, talking about self-directed brokerage accounts. And all that's so important. It all kind of comes together. And today's podcast is really special because we're expanding on a podcast that we recorded in season 5, which was looking at our financial planning process. And in light of the kind of year we anticipate having, Kim, you're going to talk about why it's so important to really revisit the financial planning process and some of the benefits that you can do, even if account values drop, income is lower. So really excited to talk to you about it today. I mean, I know a little bit about this, but I'm sure people want to hear what you have to say.
That's right. And I want to say it may be more important and more exciting to do planning now when the market is down, we are headed into recession, than it is at any other time in the economy.
Mm-hmm. And so part of that is, if you may recall, and if I'm not sure, just as a refresher, that podcast we recorded kind of walked through why we spend so much time in the initial part of our relationships with new clients in taking and gathering a lot of the data in order to understand where they are, because it's very, very difficult to establish a destination without knowing where you are, because then everything else is really just that journey, right?
That's right. And I don't even want to start there. I want to clean the slate. It's the beginning of the year. All things are possible. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, close your eyes and imagine, what will you do when your money works for you? And when I say your money is working for you, it's that time, it's that season in your life where you no longer have to work because you need to. You may do it because you enjoy it. Mm-hmm. But you have enough money invested so that it can produce either supplemental income for you to work part-time or full income for you to really slow down.
Yeah, and if you're driving, I hope you opened your eyes again. But that's exactly what our tagline is on our website. If you go to techgirlfinancial.com, it asks that question: what will you do when your money works for you? And everybody that we meet, as we start going through this planning process, that's a big part of the conversation, because it's trying to envision and I would say retirement, but it's really a time when you're not working anymore. What's that lifestyle look like? Why, and what is it that you want to do?
I think all of our clients want to think that we're going to work forever.
Well, many of them.
But there may be a time where we slow down.
Right.
And, we've got our Duolingo on our phones and we're studying Italian like never before.
That's right.
What do you want to do?
Well, I mean, I've given this quite a bit of thought, and I think you know very well that one of the passions that I have is music, travel, and, being time with friends and family. And I don't think it's too dissimilar to most people. So when I think about a time when I'm no longer working, day in, day out, how I would like to spend my time, I think it'd be returning to what gave me a lot of joy when I was in my 20s and I backpacked around the world. It's get out and explore new places, new cuisines, because I love cooking and I love food, experiencing concerts, maybe in different venues in different parts of the world and the country. And then one thing that I've really loved is, barbecue. So I'd love to try out, different places in the Southeast at some point. So obviously it's going to be more of getting out of the house, no longer being tied to the home, and having experiences with, in different parts of the world in the country. And hopefully a lot of those involve, close family and friends.
Yeah, that's funny. And I look at actually my college years.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most fun times I had was when I went to Spain and took classes there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it would be fun. When I travel, I like to really embrace the culture.
Like an immersive experience. Yeah.
And so I think doing cooking classes in
Mm-hmm.
Italy, where I am also getting to know, I don't feel lonely because I'm in a class full of other people.
Right.
And I'm getting to know those people, and we're learning the language, and we're learning to cook.
Mm-hmm.
That to me would be fun. I love languages too. I could spend time in a country just learning the language
Mm-hmm.
and getting to know people that way. So that's really a lot of what I think about in our retirement or when I'm slowing down. Because of course I can still work when I can still work for a very long time. It's just a matter of I want to slow down.
Right.
So I'm not doing it 100% of my
Well, and we
time.
get opportunities to kind of sample that on our own, even now. Like, you don't have to wait till you retire to experience some of that. I think part of it is like answering the question, what will you do when your money works for you? Well, a lot of this conversation is more when you get to a point where you're no longer working full time. But if you came into a sudden influx of money and you didn't have to work, and what would you do then? And it'd be interesting if it's the same things. Like,
Right.
so if all of a sudden we won that mega millions and we got $1 billion and we didn't have to work anymore, would we do those things that we just talked about? And the answer is probably yes. And it probably wouldn't be too dissimilar as it would be in our retirement, other than the fact that maybe now we would fly first class. You know what I mean?
Promise?
Or stay in 4-star, 5-star places.
Yes.
But I agree with you. I mean, even in a short clip, we enjoyed, even throughout the pandemic, you talk about the cooking classes and it being kind of a thing. We did that Q-Lean, where we had a guy through Zoom that actually did a cooking class, and he was in Argentina. Right. So you can sample, some of those things.
And I forgot to put on my list tennis camp.
I was going to say, because you love tennis so much, and we experienced that just recently being in Arizona, where we took our tennis rackets and we felt so like sporty carrying this, carry on with the rackets and walking through the airport. But then when we went out and played, it was kind of fun to play in a different court in a different setting.
Oh my gosh, with the backdrop of Camelback was so fun.
Yeah.
And we've done it in Newport, and we actually met another couple and got to play doubles with them.
Yeah.
Now I'm so embarrassed at my play there because I was just starting out. But the point is really that it's a great way to meet other people when you're out traveling, because a lot of the traveling to me is also about the people that you meet along the way.
Right.
And so, we're talking about all this because we're hoping that we really start making the engines spin in your head, whoever is listening out there, as to what is it that you want to do?
Yeah. What are your passions? What do you love to do and get excited about?
And why wait to plan?
Mm-hmm.
The time is now.
Let's say a failure to plan is a plan to fail, right?
Absolutely. And so we find that with our younger clients, it's such a joy because they're so young in the planning process. Minor changes today make big impacts to their plans in the future. It allows them a lot more opportunity to do a whole lot of different things if they are disciplined in investing and saving.
So let's unpack some of that. So what do you have in mind? Well,
right. Well, so we go back to the environment that we're in, and I would say, don't wait. We have appointment times available, and this is an incredible time to be planning. If you are in that accumulation mode and even in the preservation mode, what is happening right now? Incomes are dropping, stock prices have dropped, account values have dropped, and you may not have those huge gains that kept you from selling your highly concentrated stock, your RSUs, and your employee stock purchase plan, all of those things that were complicated and really tied you down to not selling when the market was up are no longer excuses in your toolbox.
Absolutely.
And so you really want to think about some of the opportunities that are out there. Roth conversions in a down market. Wow, that's an opportunity of a lifetime. We don't know when we get the next opportunity, but if account values are down and you're moving that money into a Roth, well, you just got a discount on how much income you have to report for taxes on that conversion.
And so for people who are unfamiliar with what a Roth conversion is, it's basically taking money that's been in an IRA
or a 401k.
Or a 401k, which would be taxable once you start taking distributions. What you're suggesting, if you convert it into a Roth now, you would actually be paying the taxes in the conversion. However, then everything that earns after the fact, when you pull it out, you wouldn't be paying taxes on that anymore.
That's right. And I also urge those in their 401ks, if you're dissatisfied, even if you're satisfied with performance in the past, review your investments. There are alternatives out there. And I will talk a little bit more about target dates, even though we did talk about them with Neil, and to say, review those. Is that the best thing for you? And especially if you are in the upper years and you have, within five years of retirement, that's even more important for you to look at your holdings and really talk to somebody to see if now is the time to have those target date funds. I think they're great when you're young and you know nothing about investments. I am not a fan of them when you're close to retirement.
And so for those of you who may be a little unfamiliar with the 3 stages that we defined, the first one being the accumulation phase, we're really talking about people who are still working, contributing to retirement programs, not necessarily going to be retiring anytime soon. The preservation is when you're approaching retirement, perhaps at the time of retirement and a few years after, wherein your focus kind of shifts no longer from an accumulation of growing, but more keeping what you have. And then the third stage is distribution, where you have retired, you're no longer working, you don't have a regular source of income outside of what you're earning from your own accounts, perhaps Social Security or a pension.
Right. So I like to equate this to, you not wanting to go to the doctor when you're up in weight.
When you're what?
When you're up in weight.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'm there now.
It's like, I'm not going to go there now. He's going to tell me I'm overweight and I need to diet, and he's going to tell me all of these things. And yeah, maybe that's true. Better time to show him the realistic situation, like maybe in June when you're like a normal weight for you. But I would say that is not the same for financial planning. And it is really important to do it now, even though you're going to be ashamed your values aren't where they were before. And so you look like you have less money. It's the best time to make changes because, this puts you on solid ground to go forward. And small changes now can create big impacts in the future. And so the same thing if even if you don't have 20, 30 years until your retirement and you're closer on that, it's really important to look at what you own. And in this down market, now may be the time to reposition because you know that the market's going to come back, and it'll come back quickly. We don't know when, if it's this year or next year or 2 years from now, but it will come back, and you want to be positioned in the right things for that time period.
Yeah, and even though past performance is not indicative of future results, if you look at enough charts, the market always has recovered, and it's weathered so many different world events and all kinds of catastrophes, but it does come back.
It does. And so I want to give a little time to our clients that are in retirement now in the distribution phase and taking money out, because there is a lot of concern there.
Sure.
And, the people that always call us the most of our clients when we have a market and an economy like this are the first timers. And they're the first timers just retired, and they're the first timers just invested the most money they've ever invested in their life. So more younger clients.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it's the first time they've felt a down market with larger balances.
Sure.
And so it's scary. It's so funny because those are always, it's the first timers. And every time we have a bad economy, you're in a different place. And so it's a little different. But those people that are still working, that have a long time, those people tend to be a lot calmer in these times. But those people that are in distribution mode, especially the ones that are just getting started, now is the time to really be mindful, because you have a lot of time in retirement. And so, these are the people that may not want to talk to me as much now, as I might say, slow down on your spending. I may not. It just depends on your own situation.
Sure.
But I think, slowing your spending in times like this is very important. You can take one less vacation or go domestic vacation instead of abroad. But tighten it up this year. And we will have a good market again, and then you can take bigger trips in that time period. So now's the time to review your expenses. Make sure your planning projections are still up to date. And lastly, there's something to do when all of that is said and done. Maybe you're fine and you know you're going to have plenty of money and then some left over. Well, while market values are down, it's also a good time to start thinking about legacy planning. And how will you pass this down to the next generation?
I smile because everything you're talking about, it's like, I love this term. More than advisor, it's almost like a family CFO. It's the chief financial officer that is telling you, hey, if this was a corporation and, Mr. and Mrs. Client and the people who are listening to this, if we treated it like a corporation, you would be slowing down. You'd look at where you're spending money and you wouldn't spend as much. Maybe you don't hire people right now because, it's kind of, it's along the same lines. Like the parallels are there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analysis or comparison a lot, because the best managers out there and leaders in corporations are those that can do great things in challenging times. And this is the time to be able to do great things with client investments in a challenging time.
And you're in setting yourself up for success down the road. So it continues to be a move forward. It's not a backwards. It's a proactive, take charge, make changes, prepare for the next stage. And the thing about the planning process is that establishes that baseline. And a lot of this for our existing clients has been, as we revisit their plans, it's checking where they are in that roadmap, in that journey, because we've already identified the destination and we know where we've started. So we have people that we've been working with for over a decade. And so, those checkpoints every year, are you still on track? Are you still on track? And it's like what you like to say a lot when you talk about some of our software is the financial Waze. So we're all familiar with Waze, and we use it quite a bit. We travel up to Roseville, we go up to Lake Tahoe, we go down to Los Angeles. And even for short trips in the Bay Area, I always use Waze because conditions change, but I know where I'm headed. And so these financial checkups are part of that planning process to say we might have had a route, but things are changing. What reroutes do we need to take to still get you where you want to be and ensure that you're staying on track?
Yeah, that's right. And for those of you who have not ever done this before, don't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. What it is, the old planting a tree. When's the best time to plant a tree?
Yeah.
It was 20 years ago and today.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Do not wait, because the impacts that you can do today are so much greater than in the future. And I know, a lot of people wait until a certain time frame. They change a job or they're just about to retire. A lot of people put this off. But now's the time to really get excited.
And especially for younger people, the best thing they've got going for them is time.
Yes.
Because small decisions now can have big impacts 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road.
Yeah. And I want to, it's so interesting because I've been in the business since, the late 1990s.
Really?
Yeah. I'm starting to get old.
You look good, though.
I know, but I have my gray hair.
You still look good.
I
And you
know.
play tennis.
So I want to say, it really impacted me because that was my first decade in the markets and in finance and investments. And, all of those companies that I thought were rock stars, nothing could happen to them, fell off a cliff in the late 98, 99 to 2000, 2001, around that time, actually. And they fell off a cliff and they didn't have a pulse for 10 years, some of those. So again, going back to the whole idea of what worked in the past doesn't always work in the future. So, FINRA and SEC and everybody tells us, what is that line you gave us already?
Oh, about past performance doesn't guarantee future results?
Yeah, past performance doesn't
It's not indicative of future results.
Yeah. And I tell you what, and the past performance of the leaders of the stock market in the past 5 years, I think are not going to be the leaders in the next 5 years.
I agree. And you know what? History as our guide shows us that. We just got back from an event where they did show a very similar slide to what you're talking about as to which of the top stocks constituted the best performers of the S&P 500 and how many of those names in just 10 years had been replaced.
Yeah.
And some of those, the new names were more on the tech space as opposed to the ones that were more traditional industrial companies 10 years. But it's that whole thing that it does move, it does change, and that's just the composition of one index.
That's right. So it really is a time to look at those holdings that you have. If you have those RSUs, and they are those big tech companies or that have been the heaviest weight in the S&P 500, now's the time to make changes. Now's the time to diversify. And I truly believe that. And so, we're here for you.
That's right. And so I think that the planning process is definitely something that is fluid. It does change year over year, but the destinations, which goes back to why we started with what will you do when your money works for you, it's very likely that the kind of retirement that you envision or a time when you're no longer working, you may have envisioned in your 20s or 30s could continue into your 50s, 60s, and beyond.
Yeah, and I challenge you really to think about what you want for your future because I tell you, I think it's a lot harder to save for like an unknown. It's like our daughter Mika, she had the thermometer of money for her to buy the Wii when she was 5 years old. She had a known purchase that she was going to do with that money, and it was very easy for her to save. But I think that she spends, even to this day, more money when she doesn't have anything that she's thinking about saving for than when she does. And the same goes here. How motivated are you going to be to put more money in your 401k and to put more money in your trust account if you don't really know what the end game is?
Well, I think it goes back to I think it's just naturally healthy for people to have something to look forward to.
Yeah,
right?
It's like our next vacation.
concern is, can we do this? Will it make an impact on our retirement, on some of these goals that we've established? And so us having the ability to have an established plan and then stress test it against this new element, right, or this new opportunity, I know it gives them so much joy when we come back and say, well, you might need to work a little longer or you might need to save a little bit more, but you can do it.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's where the human element is so huge in this whole process, is because you can tell some software, sure, how much money can I live off in the future, and they'll spit it out. But it really, we're looking at more. We're looking at, the tax planning involved too. Well, it would make more sense if you converted this, and perhaps, I know that you value travel over the big house that you live in because your family all lives in the East Coast and your house that costs a lot of money is here in California. So there are so many things that creative problem solving can do for you. And that creativity happens when I know a client real well, and I know their likes and their dislikes and their values. And I also know the financial situation and the taxes and whatnot. That's when you have real creative solutions. And there are so many times where we can do that, and we can think of out-of-the-box solutions. You're inheriting a cabin, and you want to buy it from the rest of your family members, or a number of things. That's just something that pops into my head. But there are always like little things here and there. Well, have you considered if you were to make this purchase, and whatever the resolution is, we can really look at that and look at a client and their likes and dislikes and their behaviors and weave it into the plan.
And it all starts from the the initial planning process, which is more than just gathering data, but it's gathering the name, obviously the numbers and the accounts and understanding what people own, but that it's also, there's almost that psychological component about what matters to you. Why are you doing these things? Like, what's the ultimate goal? I mean, we all work hard and you make money, but what's it for? What's the purpose of this? While you're still, living and having a family and being close to that, but beyond that, and it changes. It changes.
And that to me is the most meaningful thing that I can do in my job.
So it brings you joy.
Yeah, it really does.
Well, that's good.
So come on, bring me some more joy.
Yeah, so she selfishly wants more joy, which is to say that we are happy to, work and expand a little bit more on the financial planning process. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast today, in season 5, I think it's episode 4 or 5, we did expand a little bit on our planning process. You can also go to our website, and it's listed there under the planning, who we, under the About Us. I think if you scroll down, you'll see our process, our focus areas, and how we work with clients. And a lot of it, just as a refresher, is really doing a lot of, heavy lifting up front, gathering data, asking a lot of questions in multiple appointments, not just with either Kim or myself, but Christina. The entire team gets involved.
Yeah. And even it's funny because the joy that we get is nowhere near the amount of joy that our clients get in living out their dreams.
Beautifully said, Kim. So if you're interested in pursuing this and exploring it further with our team, I invite you to contact us. You can find us on our website at techrollfinancial.com. On the upper right-hand corner, schedule a meeting. You click that. You can meet with Kim. You can meet with myself. It's tied to our calendar, so find a time that's convenient for you. We're more than happy to have a chat. And then you can also go to the show notes. There will be a meeting link there as well. And as always, you can find us on all our social platforms, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, YouTube. Reach out. We're more than happy to meet.
Absolutely. And just remember, even when you don't do anything, that is the decision.
That's right. That's right. So,
Choose wisely.
Yeah, choose wisely. So again, thank you for joining us on the Tech Girl Financial Podcast, and we hope to talk to you soon.
See you later.
If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future shows, please send an email to victor@techgirlfinancial.com or join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag AskTGF. We also encourage you to follow us on the Tech Girl Financial page on Facebook and connect with us on LinkedIn.
Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Tech Girl Financial and Cambridge Investment Research, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions.